I recently watched the live action version of Thumbelina with Carrie Fisher, and it was very cheesy. I had a lot of fun with it, so I figured it was about time that I watched the 1994 animation, which I believe is the most popular version. Although I was the target audience at the time, I don't think I'd ever seen it until now. At least I had no recollections of it, so I was watching it for what I'm going to consider the first time. And it was cute. I liked it. It doesn't feel as magical as I'd expected, but I think the telling of Hans Christian Andersen's story is done very well, and Thumbelina as a character is very likable, very easy to get on with. Generally, I was pretty happy with it. So this was released, of course, in 1994, directed by Don Bluth and Gary Goldman. The screenplay was adapted by Don Bluth, of course, based on Hans Christian Andersen's tale, and Thumbelina is voiced by Jodi Benson. Thumbelina, of course, is this little. Well, I always thought she was a fairy, but she's not. She's just a very small little person, I guess, who was born out of a flower. And she falls in love with a prince fairy, or a fairy prince, Prince Cornelius, who is voiced by Gary Imhoff. But unfortunately, she is kidnapped by a toad. And she's got to try and find her way home while also hoping that the prince still loves her. It's a pretty classic fairy story, insofar as it's a love story, a quest about where she belongs, and of course we have the antagonist, who is quite literally a toad. And I wasn't sure the toad was going to be in this, because the Carrie Fisher version is the only version of this that I'd seen. And the toad appears quite quickly, whereas that's not the case here. So I was thinking, is this going to be the same story? Is it slightly different? But after that point, it's quite similar, and I enjoyed Thumbelina's journey. I thought the lily pad scene where she couldn't get off of it, I thought was beautiful. The dialogue is great, the voice acting is great. The animation is quite pretty. It's not quite as strong or as striking as I would have liked for the 1940s. But what I did for the 1940s, for 1994, but what I did find quite interesting is that even though this is not a Disney film, it is on Disney Plus. It obviously was bought by Disney after it was produced by Warner Brothers and then owned by 20th Century Fox, and then of course that progressed to being under Disney's ownership. But what's really interesting is that the illustration, the animation of the mouse, looks so much like a Cinderella mouse. It's so similar that it's kind of weird. Insofar as I actually did think it might have been a Disney mouse. One of my favorite scenes as well involves a rabbit being chased by a fox. Absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyable. Not something that I will watch time and time again. It's never going to be a classic for me, but I know it is for a lot of people. And if you're one of those people, I do understand why. It's magical. It's not the most magical, as I said, but like literally magical, fairy magic. But in terms of being a fantasy fairy tale, it's magical to watch. I liked it. It's not perfect, but it certainly has a lot going for it. I completely understand why a lot of people love this film.